Hey everyone, Jan here, codingwithjan.com, and today we're going to have a look at Shopify Metafields, sometimes also called custom fields. Pretty important stuff because they basically allow us to store additional information for products, orders, or other important objects. And especially in the context of Online Store 2.0, there were some significant changes you need to know about, so let's have a look. Alright, so starting this video off, let's quickly talk about why we need Metafields in the first place and why they are so important. And I assume you all know how to create products in Shopify. You just go to the admin dashboard, all products, and when you add a new one, the editor is pretty straightforward. You just enter a title, a description. You can upload a few images, set the price, or add a bit of further information like the stock keeping unit and so forth. And we could say this editor is quite good because it works with most products. And I mean, that's what it's designed for. But there are also certain instances where you want to display additional details. In this example, it could be the headphone's sensitivity, the charging current, the voltage, the battery type, and so forth. And then you wouldn't find suitable input fields here. Or let me also give you another example. If someone was in the food industry or maybe selling supplements, they would want to enter nutrition values like calories, sugar, the different vitamins. And then you wouldn't find suitable input fields in here as well. And then you could create meta fields to store that additional information. So that's what they are mainly used for. Okay, now in the past, the only way to create metafields though was by using apps or some hacky workarounds. And now Shopify actually released a native feature that also integrates very well with the new theme architecture that we talked about in my last video. And that's what I want to show you today. Okay, so first I want to show you some of the new customizer features. And as you can see, I currently have the Dawn theme installed, a theme built on the 2.0 architecture. That's very important. And then let's just visit the customizer and bring up one of the product pages. So I have this collection right here with 3 different headphones. Let's just bring up the first one. And now I want to add a bit of the meta information or additional information that I just mentioned, something like sensitivity, voltage, and charging current. And then we could create a new block element right here. And let's use one of these collapsible tabs down here. And then we could just name that details and paste some of the details right here. I already have them in my clipboard. Yeah, so sensitivity, 110 decibels, voltage, and recharging current. Let's give it a save for now. Okay, now we can find these values on the front end. So sensitivity, voltage, and recharging current. And the only problem is that these values are now hard-coded, or let's say constant across all the product pages. Let me even show you that. So here we have another product page and the third one. So let me show you that. So here we have the exact same details tab with the exact same values. Same here. And in reality, these headphones may have completely different values. So we need to find a solution to make these truly dynamic on a per product basis. And now in order to do that, I'm jumping back into the customizer. So this is the first product page again. And here we now find this little database icon where it reads Insert Dynamic Source. And that's entirely new. You won't find that on older themes. And if we click on that, we can now add meta fields directly in here. Or I want to say we can reference them as an output. And previously we could only do that by editing the code. Yeah, you could only render meta fields in your theme files. And now we can do it directly in the customizer. So let's click on Add Meta Field and see what happens. And now it brings us to Shopify's new Metafield editor. So this is not an app or anything. This is just a native feature. You could also find that if you click on settings. And let's see, there should be one tab that reads Metafields. So this gets you to the exact same place. And now we can add definitions for products and variants, collections, customers, and orders soon to be released. But for now, let's use products. And then let's click on Add Definition. So this is where we can define new meta fields or one new meta field. And as a first one, we could go with voltage. And then it automatically generates this namespace and the key. So myfields.voltage. So this is basically how you would access that meta field through code if you want. So then you could access that through product.metafields.myfields.voltage. And then we can also add a description if we want. We don't need that for now. Or maybe we should just add a short description so that we can see that internally. And then we can click on this plus icon to select the content type, because now we can actually select different data types for the meta fields. We will talk more about this in a minute. And for now, let's just use text because that's the easiest. It's going to be a single line of text. And we can also add some validation rules like the minimum length, the maximum length, or a regular expression if you want to check whether or not the text contains certain keywords or so. I will leave everything on default or everything blank for now. We don't need any validation. So let's save this meta field. And now we can go ahead to create the other ones as well. So they were sensitivity and current. So let me do current first. This one is going to be of type text as well. Save it. And the third one, sensitivity. Another one of type text. Single line. Let's save it. Okay, and now that we have these definitions in place, we can go back to the product editor. You definitely need to refresh this once. So let's refresh all three. And once that's loaded, we should now find all the meta fields down here. And we can now use these as additional input fields. So let's add a bit of dummy data. Sensitivity for the first one could be 100 decibels. Current, I don't know, 100 milliampere. And voltage, 5 volt. Second one, I don't know, sensitivity 110. Current, 80. And voltage, 3 volt. Just so that we can see a few differences. And then third one, let's do 120 decibels, current 70, and voltage 4 volt. Okay, save all three. Okay, so now we have different values in place for all of the three products. And then we can jump back into the customizer. And after the next refresh, we should now be able to reference these meta fields down here. So instead of this hard-coded 110 decibels, I can now add the new sensitivity right here. And instead of the voltage, we can now use this meta field. And instead of the current, we can use the third one. Come on. And let's save that. And now if we compare all three product pages, you would find that the values are 105 and 100, 110, 3 and 80, and 124 and 70. Yeah, so they are all independent from each other and completely dynamic on a per product basis. How awesome is that? Alright, now if this channel was called Customizer with Jan, the video would end right here. But you, my friend, you have subscribed for Coding with Jan, so there's more. So let's talk about data types. And I actually want to show you all of these different meta field data types right here. And what I want to do next is create one meta field for each of the types. And I will just name them according to the type. So the first one is going to be test underscore color. Excuse me. And then, yeah, I will just create one for each of these. So the second is date, the third is file, JSON measurement, number, rating, and so forth. And I will just pause the video and skip ahead. Okay, so now I went ahead and created all these different meta fields: test URL, boolean, text, reference, number, measurement, JSON, file, date, and color. And I also deleted the ones that we initially had just to maintain a better overview. Then let's have a look at the product editor. So we got that right here. And at the bottom, we find all these new meta fields. And now what I want to draw your attention to is that depending on the meta field type, we will have a different input or select mechanism, and also different validation. So for example, for a URL, I couldn't just enter a single character. It would say something like, I don't know, what does it say? Value cannot have an empty scheme. So it needs to be something like https://codingwithjan.com or something like that. And then we can save that. So yeah, validation is different. And for some of the meta fields, you would also find different input elements. So for example, the boolean can either be true or false. The text can just be text. Let's do ABC. Reference can only be a page in the store. So we could do the About Us page. Number is obviously a number. Let's do 5. Measurement is also just a number, but it also contains a unit. So let's do kilogram. JSON can only be a JSON string. So let's do something like test, and then, or let's do the following: text and then hello world. That should be valid JSON. The file picker is now set as an image picker, so now we can select images right here. Maybe we can just select this one right here. And then the date is obviously a date picker. So let's pick any arbitrary date. And color is a color picker. You've guessed it. And then let's save all these meta fields right here. And one last check here. If the list exceeds the number of meta fields that can be displayed here, you can also click on View All. Maybe we forgot one. No, okay. For now we have all. But yeah, that can happen sometimes. Okay, now that we have different values for all these meta fields in place, I actually want to jump back into the customizer and show you something different. Because, for example, if we try to reference these meta fields in the tab content, I got rid of everything we previously had. Then we click on Insert Dynamic Source again. But here we would only find a very limited set of the meta fields we just created. Yeah, so we only find date, measurement, number, and text. But there's no color picker, there's no URL, no image picker, and so forth. And if on the other hand, we try to reference a dynamic data source for this page selector here, then we would only find the reference meta field. Yeah, so here we can't link a text field, we can't link a number or anything like that. Or for example, if we have this select element here, we can't link any meta field at all because it doesn't make too much sense. But what I'm trying to get across here is that these input elements are only compatible with certain meta fields. And to give you a better overview, you can take a look at this comparison right here that outlines which setting and meta field types will be compatible. So for example, if we have a color picker in our customizer, we can only reference a color meta field. If we have an image picker in our customizer, we can only reference a file reference. If we have a text field on the other hand, we can reference text meta fields, we can reference all sorts of number meta fields, date meta fields, and measurement meta fields. Yeah, and you will find the link in the description. Okay, now next I also want to show you how this implementation or referencing looks inside the theme files. So if we take the tab content, for example, and then just add a meta field of type text, we should find ABC right here. Okay, then let's save that. And now I want to go into the theme files, or more specifically, bring up the product template, because that's where the customer data gets saved. If you're unsure about that, you can go ahead and watch my last video. But otherwise, let's just do it together. Actions and then edit code. And then in here, we should find the template folder and the product.json template. So this is where all the data from the product page gets stored. And now we just got to find this collapsible tab right here. Let me zoom in a bit so you can read this better. So this is the collapsible tab. Heading is details. And here we can see that the content is currently set to product.metafields.myfields.test_text.value. Yeah, so they're just referencing the meta field in the settings. Okay, now the last thing I want to mention in this video is that meta field use is not limited to the customizer. So you can still use meta fields in the code files or in the theme files. So for example, if we had a section file, this is the one we prototyped in our last video, you could still access the meta fields like product.metafields, then the namespace, in our case it was myfields, then the key, the metafield key, let's just do test_text. So that will put out the meta field. And we also have two new meta field filters. Let me show you them as well. The first one is called Metafield_tag. And the second one is called Metafield_text. Subtle difference. And the text filter always converts the meta field to a text value. For example, if we had an image picker, it would put out the image URL. And the tag filter generates some HTML markup. So for example, if we have a text meta field, then the HTML around it would be a span element. And if we had an image meta field, the HTML around that would be an image tag. I could also show you that in documentation. So for example, yeah, here we have basically the meta field filters, and meta field tag is the first one. So this is how it's used. And yeah, if we have a single line of text, it would wrap the content into a span element. And if we had a page reference, then it would wrap the content into an A tag or a link. If we had a product reference, it would also be a link. And if we had an image picker, it would generate an image element. And now the text filter, on the other hand, Let's have a look at that too. Somewhere down here. This is how we use the text filter. And then it states if we have a text Metafield, then it would only put out the text. That makes sense. If we have a page reference, it puts out the page title. If we have a file reference, it puts out the file URL, and so on and so forth. So you can check back on that for all the different Metafield types, but it would be even better if you just test it yourself. Alright, that's it for today's video, and I really hope you learned something new. If you liked the video, do me a favor and leave a comment, because that's basically the only way I can get to know you better. Views and likes is always cool and much appreciated, but comments is like, wow, this is real people, and it makes it so much more fun and so much more engaging. So yeah, let me know what's on your mind. What do you struggle with? Do you want to see more development content, more basic, more advanced stuff? Do you want to get started as a freelancer? Do you want to build your own agency? Do you want to be hired in a tech company as a developer? Do you struggle with, I don't know, consistency, productivity, confidence? Just let me know what's up, and then we can make videos on that, and we got this together. So then I'll see you in the next. Have a good day. Bye.